Good afternoon from Brussels, where Europe's de facto political capital has been digesting the news that Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States come January. There's been a lot of reaction from other European capitals. Just like to read you something that Angela Merkel said a few hours ago. She was quite strong in her statement, making some recognition of the tough rhetoric that had been throughout Mr. Trump's campaign. She said Germany and America are connected by values of democracy, freedom and respect for the law and the dignity of man, independent of origin, skin colour, religion, gender, sexual orientation or political views. I offer the next President of the United States close cooperation on the basis of these values. French President François Hollande congratulated Mr. Trump, but said that his election as the next Commander-in-Chief would prove to provide a period of uncertainty. So huge questions for European leaders as to what this seismic event might mean. I'm joined now by Giovanni Grevi from the European Policy Centre. So thanks very much for giving up your afternoon to join us here at Euronews. What do you think it means for the United States-European relationship with the election of Donald Trump? What's going to change?
Well, Donald Trump has clearly set US interest first, America first. And I think that both in the case of the transatlantic partnership and in the case of other aspects of international relations, they will matter to him insofar as they help fulfill what he defines as American interests. So we are looking at a more transactional partnership based on clear deliverables.
And I was at an event at the US Embassy the early hours of the morning. And what a lot of the diplomats were saying, they were very worried about Mr. Trump's rhetoric on free trade. There's the partnership with the Asian countries, TPP. There's also TTIP, as you know, which has been negotiated between Brussels and Washington. Many of the diplomats there were saying that it's game over for these two deals.
Well, Donald Trump has come out clearly against the TPP. TTIP has not featured very high in the course of the electoral campaign, but clearly more generally, Donald Trump is skeptical of the benefits of large trade deals and has said that he would like to scrap some, has said that he would like to negotiate others, but more on a bilateral basis and perhaps on narrower economic sectors. So indeed, prospects for relaunching and concluding negotiations on TTIP have become much more remote.
And so if we're looking at more bilateral deals, do you sense a window of opportunity for the British government, for example, with Brexit forthcoming, we think, in 2 years' time? Could that be a real opportunity for Theresa May?
Well, that is really a medium-term prospect. We will have to see how Trump will actually flesh out his trade and economic policy and also what the impact will be on the US economy in the short to medium term.
And another thing that Mr. Trump said during the campaign, he called into question whether he'd fully be behind the NATO military alliance. A lot of partners in Eastern Europe and the Baltics were worried to hear those remarks. Do you think that Mr. Trump's election will encourage Europeans to spend more on defence finally?
Well, of course, Donald Trump has been questioning the value of NATO, the value of US commitment to NATO, that is part of a larger rhetoric about the US getting a bad deal from its allies, whether in economic terms or in security terms. Whether then deeds would follow words once he's in office, we will see. NATO has been a cornerstone of the US strategic approach for decades. Turning it around is not that easy.
Actually, probably worth pointing out, indeed, at this event this morning, the US ambassador to NATO really went to great lengths to point out that the alliance would remain strong, whoever wins the election. I'm kind of curious, though, we had this discussion in Europe over the past few years about the rise of the so-called populist parties. We know the ones we're talking about, so we're looking at France, the Netherlands and so on. Big elections coming up next year in 2017. What do you think the impact will be on parties such as the Front National or Geert Wilders' Freedom Party when they see that Mr. Trump can get the keys to the Oval Office?
Well, clearly there is a very serious possibility that Trump's victory in the US encourages populist parties in Europe to pursue their campaign with even stronger vigor and doubling down on a nationalist and protectionist message. And this nationalist and protectionist message is what Donald Trump and some of the leaders you just mentioned share.
And do you think there's any way that the European mainstream can counter that now, or do they essentially have to pursue a strategy of adoption? I mean, I saw a speech by Nicolas Sarkozy, who's hoping to run for the, well, he is running for the presidency next year. Do you think that European mainstream parties will try and counter this narrative, or will they eventually end up adopting it?
Well, it seems to me that adopting the narrative of the extremes has not been playing very much to the favor of mainstream political parties. So it seems to me that they stand a better chance if they really invest on joining forces, on common European solutions to share problems, not least with a view to the fact that the US partner and ally may be less dependable or more selective in its engagement than it used to be.
Giovanni Grevi from the European Policy Centre, thank you very much for being with us, and thank you very much for that insight. That was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you're watching Euronews. We'll be bringing you, of course, more updates throughout the course of the day. We'll be back here in Brussels around 5 p.m. Central European time. Do join us then.